Pilot Boys in the building. Let's go.
Pilot Boys, we get on up. We the fly boys, we getting up.
You're listening to the Pilot Boys podcast. We are joined by a very special guest, celebrity, singer, businesswoman, mom, wife, everything you can imagine. Superwoman, Taj George. Taj, thank you for joining us on the Pilot Boys podcast. How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for yeah. And as I was actually introducing you, I started to think about like, wow, you actually do a lot of things. And I guess I'm wondering, what has this quarantine period of time been like for you, trying to juggle and balance all of those things that I literally just mentioned?
It's been great. I don't have to juggle much anymore. My traveling has been completely shut down. Literally, I'm home. At the first month, I was cleaning like every day. I said, no coronavirus here. No. So I clean nonstop. Right. I cook a lot more now. I spend a lot more time with my son. I've been able to work out more. I've been reading more, everything. I'm really taking advantage of the time, the downtime. I mean, of course, I miss the road. I'm ready to get back out there on the road, but I'd rather be alive than not. Yes. Okay.
I feel you. And how about your kids? How have they been taking it? Because, it's different stories everywhere. Some kids are hating it. Some kids are enjoying it. How have they been?
My youngest, he goes in and out. Like he's ready to get outside, but he's such he's an only child, so he's fine being by himself. He's okay. And as I said in the beginning, Eddie and I traveled so much, we were hardly ever home. He's looking at us like, do you have some place to
go? Right. Absolutely.
He likes his freedom.
Yeah. He loved it when we weren't around. This was his house. Bro.
That's the thing. I think that, the answer kind of to that question is very personal, right? Because, there's some people who, obviously there have been some bad things happening with, increase in domestic violence and depression, suicide. Yeah. But then there have also been some people's positive experiences, just depending on what their circumstances are. So I'm just always curious to kind of hear people's perspective. One thing I want to talk about next is kind of, before we get into some other stuff, I want to talk about kind of the origins of SWV, right? Obviously, we've been fans of SWV since the beginning, since way before we knew you and met you. And I just imagine being, a celebrity during the 90s when music was just popping and everything was popping.
And R&B was killing it.
Yeah. Everything was popping.
Yeah, like talk to us about that, about like kind of just the original like formation and how that was and how it was kind of just building and growing with the group at that time.
Well, we, of course, all grew up in New York, Brooklyn and the Bronx. I'm from Brooklyn. The girls are from the Bronx. So New York was just the place to be at that time. Everything is always accessible in New York. You can get anywhere in less than 20 minutes. The subway, you don't have to worry about parking. We were young, and it was like the time of our lives. We had great success. We wanted to do a great album, and we were able to do that. We were able to tour the world. Our downfall was our camp. We didn't have anyone around to explain to us this business because, of course, the music business is a business.
Yes.
Before everything else is a business.
Absolutely.
But we didn't comprehend that because we were young and all we knew was everybody loved us. So we were thinking this is great. But we missed the business end and it tore us apart. So it was almost a blessing again. You have to see the blessing in everything. It was almost a blessing again that we did break up when we did, because when we came back, we appreciated each other so much more. We knew what we had to do off the bat. There was no mistaking who was better than who, what was wrong. We knew what to do. So sometimes you got to step back to find your way forward. And I'm trying to take that same mindset with this damn quarantine.
Got you. So that brings me to another question, which is, I guess, what would you tell your younger self now that you're seasoned and you've learned a lot? What would you have told your younger self now, or would you not necessarily have changed anything? Do you feel like all those experiences were necessary, I guess, to get you to where you are?
I think they were necessary, but I think also I allowed myself to be the victim. If I could have a chance to go back to my younger self, I would tell myself to snap out of it. Everybody doesn't deserve your kindness. Everybody doesn't deserve your trust. And everybody doesn't deserve to treat you the way they want to treat you. Oh, if I could only tell my younger self that.
Yeah.
Folks would have hated me.
So let's talk about the good stuff. Talk about some of the, the highlights, right? Obviously, selling albums, selling out shows, all that type of stuff. But is there anything else that happened during this period? Maybe people that you met, things that happened, circumstances, fun moments, anything that could just take us into that time period a little bit that you're allowed to say.
For me, and I know some people might think this is crazy, but I am still to this day the biggest Bobby Brown fan in the entire world. Nobody can top me. Right. So when I finally had the opportunity to meet him, and mind you, I've been a fan since I was 13 years old, and there were experiences that we've had running into each other, but when I was able to meet him as Taj from SWV, and he's just the best. I don't care what nobody says. I don't care. Bobby Brown was just the best. He has qualities that people don't see. They don't see it. All you see is the bad stuff. Of course, bad news travel way faster than good news, but he has elements of great qualities that people don't get a chance to see. I did. So, and it wasn't romantic. We've never had anything where I've never even kissed him, like nothing. He's never been attracted to me. He's just a genuinely good person underneath all the crap.
Yeah. You guys got started early, right? In the 90s. The music industry was different then than it is now, obviously, right? And one of the funny stories I read was to stand out that you guys would send Perrier sparkling water bottles with your packages to kind of stand out. And just tell us a little bit about the difference. Now we have technology. There are so many ways that you can get people's attention. That wasn't so back then. You tell us a little bit about how you guys got your break and the things that you did to get attention.
Well, that is one thing that I will give our first manager. She put a little package together with our demo, a bottle of Perrier water, some, I guess, confetti or whatever. It was a cute little package, and she sent it to all the major labels. RCA was the only one that responded, but when you think about it, it was cute. She didn't send it as mail. She sent it as, hey, special delivery, and they had to get it. You could either listen to it or not, but a lot of people listened to it. Most of them said no, but RCA decided to roll with it, and thank God, because who knows how it would have been if we had been on another label with other groups. We were their primary focus. So we were able to do things that we probably wouldn't have been able to do on another label.
Yeah. And who was your... Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah,
I was going to say...
Go ahead. Go ahead.
This doesn't happen that often. Okay.
Wait, I'm just going to talk. No, okay.
Right. I was going to ask who your guys' rival, I guess, so to speak, was at that time. Not necessarily who you guys felt rivalry with, but maybe who the media tried to put against you guys, or people, not even if it was just one, like who was your kind of competition, so to speak, at that time?
You know, it's so crazy. In the 90s, there were an abundance of girl groups. You had SWV, TLC, Escape, Jade, Brownstone, The Good Girl.
Oh my gosh.
The era of groups.
Stuff. Yeah, there were girl groups off the butt. So, I mean, as far as selling records, everybody was competition. Yeah. Now, of course, we know, don't forget In Vogue, but of course we know TLC surpassed everyone, but we were right behind them. So, hey, number 2 ain't bad.
Right.
25 million records isn't bad.
Until Destiny's Child came along, those damn girls.
They changed the game. What was your opinion of them when they first dropped?
Well, we thought they were great. The funny thing about Destiny's Child is we've known them since they were 13 and 14 years old. They were such huge fans of SWV. When we would go to Houston, before we would even get there, they knew where we were staying. They were at our hotel. Wow. They used to spend the night with us in our hotels. We would take them with us on our meet and greets. We were so happy for them when they finally got their mojo going and everything was great. You can tell they were going to be great. Yeah. Beyonce was Beyonce from the time she came out her mother's womb. So there was no denying that. But the girls were just incredible as a group. They were great. And they had a great manager. Matthew was determined to get those girls out there, and he did a great job.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about that because you've been in the industry for a while, and you mentioned how at that time there were so many girl groups or so many guy groups too on the R&B side. You don't see that anymore.
You don't.
And even in terms of how the music was made with the harmonies, multiple people having an opportunity to get on a record. That's not the case anymore. What do you think has changed? I know part of it is probably business related, but why do you think that that's not a art form that's popular anymore, the group?
That I really can't tell you. I have no definite answer, but I can tell you the shift in the business probably played a role. You went from regular record deals to this whole 360 record deal thing, where record labels is like, I'm not going to put out all my money first. We can be partners, or you can do your own. Right. And then I guess with the age of social media, everybody's promoting themselves. There aren't a lot of girl groups. Everybody's solo and everybody's taking off on their own. But I tell you what, the first person comes up with a hot girl group in this era is going to win.
That is very true. And it's true. That's true also for hip hop too. I mean, back in the day, we used to see groups, the Locks, 3-6 Mafia, Outkast. I mean,
Don't Thugs and Harmony.
Don't Thugs. I mean, I can go on and on. Now you don't really see that as much. I think part of it is just society has turned a lot more individualistic. Not just in terms of music, but just in general. And then also, just understanding the business side. The business side of a group can get really, really messy. And you can start, first of all, the business side in terms of just how you split the money, but then even the attention side, right? In terms of who's getting the attention and egos and all that type of stuff. I always said I never wanted to be in a group.
And like you mentioned early on, an industry that likes to divide people as well.
That's what I was about to tell you. You definitely don't want to be in a girl group.
Yeah.
All the hormones.
I can't even imagine some of the fights. So let's talk about some of the bad moments. And not because I want to highlight them, but I think it's important for people who are, in this industry to understand what can happen. What are some of the things that did happen? You touched on them a little bit earlier. Some of the things that you regret or some of the bad moments that you had that maybe you eventually learned from or didn't learn from.
Yeah. Well, I definitely thank God I learned from everything. All right, let's even stop before you even get to just the business. Once you become anywhere near successful, you got to deal with your personal circle. They lose their minds first. Everybody feels like you owe them something.
Yes.
And if you're weak-minded, and I can honestly say I was back then, I was 20. I felt like I had to give everybody everything because they got me a bottle of water one day. Right, he opened the door when I had my hands full, so I owe him everything, Right. And then you go over to the business side, where especially in a female group, and our dynamic was a little different because Coco was the main lead singer, so she felt unappreciated, and that caused issues between the group that caused an entanglement between the group.
We're going to get to that, by the way.
It caused an entanglement. Right. And instead of having someone around to explain to us what a cohesive group is and how we're going to have disagreements, but we can work through them because here's what the alternative is. There was no one there to help us with that. So the downside was that while people saw us on stage happy and dancing, when we got off the stage, it was like, you go your way, I'm going my way because I don't like your hair and y'all just the stupid stuff. We were young.
Right. Yeah.
And you guys ended up breaking up, right? And then getting back together. 98.
Yeah, we were apart for 98 to 2005. I was never good with math. What is that?
7 years. 7 years.
7 years. Okay.
Yeah,
we took a 7-year break. So we were together from 92 to 98, 6 years, and we took a 7-year break. And now we've been together for 14 years?
Yeah.
And when
15.
you know better, you do better.
So let's talk about that period, the period where you guys actually broke up. What was that period like? Was there any type of communication at all? Was it bitter or was it just kind of quiet? And then how did it eventually come back together?
It started off very bitter. Yeah. It was very bitter initially. And again, like for me, I literally stripped myself of SWV when the group broke up and I decided to move. I mean, for one, we were like low on cash. So I decided to move and start all over. And when I unpacked my house, I took everything related to SWV and threw it in the dump.
Oh no! Wow. That's millions of dollars worth of memorabilia. Yeah,
plaques, everything. To this day, my brother has my platinum plaques because if he didn't take them out the trash, they would be history. They would be gone. Wow. But he wanted them, so I'm like, hey, keep that shit. I started over, and I think for me, again, it was another blessing, a blessing that I didn't want, I didn't perceive as a blessing at the time, but I realize now it was a blessing because I had to learn how to live on my own. I had to understand that everything I did didn't depend on one person, and because of that philosophy, I was taken advantage of so much that my self-esteem was just destroyed. So going out on my own and realizing that I'm capable, I'm worthy, I can do this, I did this, I'm even better now. When I came back to the group in '05, it was just a whole new dynamic. Like I walked in with my head high. I didn't have to hide in the corner. I didn't have to not be able to say anything. Oh God, no, things changed dramatically.
And who bridged that gap? Who brought you guys back? Because I mean, obviously, if it was bitter, I don't, it probably took a lot of work to kind of get you guys back together on the same page.
You know what? It really didn't take a whole lot of work. I mean, I had just gotten married. I literally just had my son. He was 3 months old when I was the last person they called to come back to the group. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was Teddy Riley. He wanted us to do the show with him. I think it was the Tom Joyner cruise. They had to call me to do it because of course they wanted all 3 girls. And one thing I will say about us, we never thought we could do it without each other. So there was never going to be a new girl.
Right.
When Coco left the group initially, Lily wanted to do it with another girl. And I'm like, that's not SWV though. That's just not the element that we need. I'd rather not do it than do it without them.
Right.
So they called me and we had to work out some differences. We had to come to the red table. I keep going back to that.
The red table, hilarious.
We had to work out some things and say some things, get some things off our chest so we could move forward. And that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask about the second go around, right? Right. In the first go around, you guys were in the 90s where everything was hot. The second time around, you're coming to a new industry that's probably drastically different than the industry you were in before. Can you tell us a little bit about those differences and the challenges that come with it? Because a lot of people say this music industry isn't for the faint of heart, and it's really, really hard to maintain the longevity that you guys have maintained. It's usually a few years at most.
Yeah. Coming back, we had to definitely understand that this was no longer the 90s. We were in the 2000s now. And everything was turning over to digital. We had learned this word called streaming. Who knew about that? So when we wanted to do a new album, it wasn't as easy as, hey, we're SWV and we're back. Folks was like, y'all look old. Y'all wearing like,
oh God,
you're not wearing thongs and you're not taking pictures with your titties out. No, we all had children and we were married. So we wanted to reflect that while still trying to be sexy, but it just wasn't being accepted. Finally, we got an independent deal, and that was just, it was a great idea, but the funds were not there to promote it the way it should have been. And I believe we left 2 incredible albums on the table because they were never heard. Yeah. But the age of social media is so crazy. I always tell my son, you guys have it easy. You can just sign onto a computer and see what everybody's doing. You can type in hi and they may respond to you. Right. Back when I grew up, you got lucky if you saw them coming out of a store or a restaurant, and then you really couldn't say nothing but hi, can I get an autograph? And that was that. Yeah. But these people, these kids, or social media, the age of social media, they don't appreciate the access that they're given to these artists. So what they do now is they troll you, you say hi wrong, they're cussing you out for wasting Sunday. They just don't understand the privilege that they have. They don't appreciate it because they've never had to do the hard work like we did. I know kids hate when we say that, but damn it, it's true.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And one of the things that you actually mentioned is that when you had come back, you had, just had a baby, you obviously were married. And so, getting married in this industry as a female, and I've heard this from female artists and women artists, is that like, people don't want to hear about your relationships. They don't want you to be booed up. They don't, and then now you're dealing with someone who's famous and is also a celebrity. Talk to us a little bit about that time period and what that was like.
It was wonderful. I did not have a problem. For one, I'm like the most loyal person you will ever meet in your life. I always tell people, if you are down for me and I can count on you, you never have to turn around. You know I'm back there. I got you.
Right.
I have 4 best friends. I call them the elements. That I don't have to ever think twice about them. They're there whenever I need them. They're all 4 of them are my son's godmothers. I'm like, if anything happened to me, I know neither one of you will let him fall. So that's that. But I didn't have a problem coming back married because I wasn't trying to be sexy for anybody else.
Right.
I always tell people I didn't have an ass when I got married. He liked the flat bone then. He's gonna love the flat bone now. So I don't have to push my flat bone out there or inflate it for attention. You know? I was good with it. And as a couple, when we did our reality show, Married to Baller, it was so well received that we never had to say, well, let's not talk about our marriage. When I walk into a room, first thing people say is, how's Eddie?
Right.
Like, what about me?
Right. For real. So we had Mike Hill on, who's married, or fiance of Cynthia Bailey. And we asked him kind of the same question about like some of the challenges though that come with both of you guys being celebrities and, you know, in terms of scheduling and maybe social media now and people creating lives and stories. What are some of the challenges that you and Eddie have dealt with just by virtue of the fact that you guys are both celebrities?
Well, I know one time we had a pain in the butt situation. And again, social media, you love it, but you got to hate it sometimes because, again, bad news travels way quicker than good news. So Eddie had to go to Florida to do Archie's, what's his name?
Archie Griffin?
Archie Griffin. Yes, I can think his name to save my life.
Come on,
I'm like, Mike Archie.
You're a Buckeye.
I know.
You got to know that by heart. Come on.
Well, it's understandable knowing by his first name only too.
Right,
though.
True. Right. So we had to go down there for that event. Of course, at the black tie portion of it or the dinner part of it, they have been drinking, and one of the guests offered him a ride home. So Eddie calls me 8 times a day. And I'm telling him, like, you don't have to check in every second. I got you. I'm reading. Okay. Right. So he was on the phone with me and he goes, I gotta go. We're getting pulled over. I'm like, what's going on? Come to find out he's in the car with this girl and all over the media. Eddie George is cheating on his wife. And cheating on I'm on the phone with him, but you can't tell people that because they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. So we're just like, and it also kind of offset a book that we had written. We had just wrote a book called Married for Real, where we talk about everything that we had to go through and how you can overcome obstacles in your marriage. But the book was not received because of one stupid incident that meant nothing.
That's crazy. Wow. Yeah, that's this, you know, and you're right, especially when it comes to celebrities, man. People, as quickly as people want to build you up and love you and embrace you, they're also those same exact people sometimes are willing to do whatever it takes to figure out ways to bring you down also.
Well, there's value in drama, right? And that's kind of the problem with the entertainment industry is that a lot of the things that are glorified are negative, right? So if everything was perfect and you guys didn't have some drama or issues, then there's nothing for them to talk about and monetize, right? So
what's funny is we just got a call to do marriage boot camp. And we were like, we don't have any problems in our marriage. They're like, no, it's not just for problems. I'm like, you are not going to just come in there and destroy our marriage. No. So we were like, what can we even talk about? And the only thing we could come up with is we fight over covers.
Of course, like every cover.
I'm angry. Because he's got to sleep with 8 pillows. I like to sleep with the television off. He likes it off. I want it on. He likes all these pillows. I'm good with one. He sleeps in the middle of the bed, knocks me over. So I'm like, literally, we like, you know what? I hate him at
night. Right. And that's about it. And the funny thing is people will eat it up because people are looking for anything. And you mentioned the Red Table twice. So I'm going to ask you now. What were your thoughts on that too? Because in a lot of ways, I think, first of all, there's a over fascination with celebrities and celebrity couples and their relationships. Really is. But I think Will and Jada, to be honest, I think they're playing people a little bit, right? I mean, obviously they brought this. It wasn't like they decided to do this, and people are talking about what they decided to do. What are your kind of thoughts on the Red Table and the Will Smith thing with Jada and how that's played out so far?
Well, first I'll just say this. Yes, they brought it to the table, and I think they felt pressured to bring it to the table. But it's really not anybody's business. Like no one. I always tell people, I don't go to hell for your sins. I'm only going to hell for my sins. So I could care less what you're doing. So, but I can tell you this: it has been the greatest entertainment.
Right. Oh, the memes have been incredible.
The memes.
Yeah.
Did you see the one with the Soul Train line where they have to figure out the letters?
No, I didn't see that one.
It's the word for entanglement. They're standing there up against the letterboard, and you got to guess the word. And this, I look my eyes.
That's definitely one thing. That's one thing for sure. That's come out of even just in quarantine. V and I have talked about this before too. It's just people, the creativity of people has been on display.
Yeah, and you kind of in this specific scenario, you kind of feel like you said something earlier. It's like if you make a mistake, you have to own it. Don't bring me into it as well. I think that's a general principle that I think that everyone vibes with. Is like one, for it to come out publicly the way that it did, and he's already dealing with that, and then for you still to ask him to come on your Red Table Talk is something that bothered me personally, that she would do that, instead of just giving him space to. It's kind of it's embarrassing for anyone in a relationship to have to deal with that, let alone have to come on your talk.
But I think
talk about it.
I agree, but I think that they're acting a little bit. That's just my perspective. I think they're
you can see it. You can see it. I said that when they're posting another interview, or I guess a post that she had posted, and she's basically talking the same thing, and it just felt like insert name here kind of thing. I mean, and again, that's them, but I just think it was a personal matter. Obviously, August was really hurt that he bought it out. I mean, it would have still been a secret had he not said anything, but he's obviously trying to heal something within him, and which forced them to verify, or I guess confirm, the rumors that people say they have an open relationship and this and that. Well, like, again, whatever they do, Christians always judge people, but I always tell people, you don't go to jail or sent to hell for someone else's sins. You only go for yours. And when you judge, see you there.
Absolutely. And let me give you a chance to gush about Eddie for a little bit too, because obviously Eddie George is, he's amazing, and from what we see, obviously we know him, but a lot of people don't. But from what they see this just like you, a Renaissance man who can act and he can produce, and obviously he was a great football player and a businessman. And so talk to us a little bit about what it is that honestly that makes Eddie great. You can hear my son in the background.
I hear
him. And what is it about Eddie that makes him so great, and that makes you kind of, I guess, love him the way that you do?
Well, for me, initially, it was all physical. He was fine. I said, whatever he does, it's okay, because he cute. Okay. But there was something about Eddie that really attracted me to him. I love an intelligent man. And he definitely struck me as that. When he told me his major at Ohio State was landscape architecture, the first thing I'm thinking is he can add. He's good. I could never do anything with heavy math or anything that if it's just not writing, I'm off. I'm out of it. But he went back, he finished that, and I loved his determination and drive with football. Like after every game, he's working out. He's trying to do something different. I just thought that was so dope, and it made me want to try different things. I mean, I used to work out, but when I started working out with him, I was just like, I can't do this. This is for superheroes. I can't do this. But then after he stopped playing, his drive just tripled. He wanted to act. He started taking lessons like every day. He felt like he didn't have enough education. He went to Northwestern. How do you get into Northwestern after playing so many years of football? But he did it. So apparently he didn't get hit enough in his head. He was still lucid. So he went to Northwestern and he got his degree. He started all these businesses, and I was just so impressed by his determination. I'm more attracted to his brain of course, his body is amazing, but I was so attracted to his brain. It made me I love an intelligent man. That's sexy to me.
Yeah. And go ahead, B.
Go ahead. If you're saying, I was going to ask, how connected are your guys' kids to your careers, right? Like, and do they listen to all of your music? Do they watch all of his old highlights?
That's a good question.
Or are they like, that's ancient history. Let's talk about now.
Jair, our oldest son, who was a baby during Eddie's career, I believe he was born in 97. Of course, Eddie started in 95, 96. So he grew up knowing about Eddie. He watched the games. He'd been there to witness it. So he was, of course, Eddie's biggest fan. And he also wanted to go to Ohio State when he was younger. As he got older, that just went wayward. He ended up going to Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. Now, my youngest son was born after he retired. He had never seen Eddie play before in his life. Only thing he saw was the cheers and the crowds at Ohio State, which he is just in love with. You cannot tell him he's not going to Ohio State. I always tell anybody that I meet from the school, please talk to the deans, make sure they understand he's coming, because if he doesn't get in, he might just blow up the school. So he's that dedicated, but he didn't watch a lot. Actually, in the beginning, he didn't understand why everyone loved Eddie so much. And people would tell him, your dad was this and your dad was that. So he started looking at highlights and he's just like, oh. For the longest, he thought I was special and Dad wasn't.
That's so funny. So talk to us a little bit about, how did you get indoctrinated into Buckeye Nation, right? Because that's something that, by extension, once you marry into it, you're kind of part of it. What was that like for you?
Absolutely. Well, the funniest thing is, when I met Eddie, initially, he walked up to me at the Mall of Florida, and he asked me for my autograph. He was still in college. I'd never watched football before. I barely watched basketball, so I had no idea who he or Sean Springs or any of those guys were who came up to me. And then the next year I ran into him, he had just won the Heisman. Again, I had no idea what that award was. So I was just like, oh, he's cute. We talked for like 2 weeks, and then I was actually in the middle of a breakup with an ex-boyfriend. And after 2 weeks, I knew I was going to go back to him. I told you I was weak back then. I love being the victim. So I told Eddie, I know I'm going to go back to this guy. He's going to call any day now, and I don't want to put you in that triangle. Now, mind you, people are like, but you left him. No, he was already doing his thing. I was strung out on somebody else, and I don't cheat. So I told him I'm going to step away because it is. But he won me over. But when we finally, I done forgot my thought. What was I saying?
You were talking about how you guys eventually how you guys got together and how you got indoctrinated to Buckeye Nation.
Yes. So when we first started dating,
she can't stop talking about Eddie to this day.
I get thrown off. I didn't know anything about football, so when he would invite me to his games, I would end up going to sleep. And his mother hated that. And I'm like, I don't understand the game. This is boring to me. So I literally had to sit there and learn what I was looking at so I could stop offending people. Because especially when it was cold, I'd come with my pillows and blankets and I'd be like, I'm going to just wait till the next play. And my head is down and I'm shaken by cheers. But yeah, I had to learn.
And so as Buckeye Nation, they now it's home for you. Is that something that's part of you now?
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. I'm like completely into it now. I told you, my youngest son, I have so many videos of him crying and having fits whenever the Buckeyes would lose. He would have a fit. Like 2 years, like was it last year when they lost to Purdue?
2 years ago.
Whenever. Oh my God.
Yeah, maybe 3 years ago now. Okay.
So apparently they were undefeated up until that game. I was actually in Las Vegas filming a television show at the time. And Eric went to his friend's birthday party. And this is the same day of this game. They had rented a hotel for the kids to run around and have a good time. So my girlfriend said, she showed me a game, the ticker. And I saw that Purdue was beating Ohio State. I said, oh Lord, let me call my child. So I call Eric and he answers, Mom, they're losing. I was like, Eric, it's okay. You're at a birthday party. He's in a room by himself crying like a baby. No. And he says, no, we're never going to get in the playoffs. Stupid, they beat us. He is going off. This is what made my girlfriend call me. She goes, Eric said he doesn't want to live. I'm like, boy, it's a game.
No. It's so sad. That game
sounds like a lot of us Buckeye fans.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Never trust what we say in the moment of a loss.
Yeah, for sure. Well, he's
his whole room.
He's lucky he grew up during this time period, because there haven't been.
I know.
Losses. Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
So let's switch gears.
If they ever lose to Michigan, I'm just scared he's
please.
Yeah.
I hope. I hope that doesn't happen for him. So let's switch gears for a second too, because I want to get to something else. Also, this time period, although we've spoken about kind of the coronavirus and COVID, has also been a kind of a historical time period as well, as it relates to Black Lives Matter and the protests and some riots, I guess you could say. What are your kind of thoughts? I guess we'll start here as a celebrity, right? And people kind of wanting to hear from celebrities and, hearing what they think about certain things. What do you think about kind of celebrity responsibility, I guess, in time periods like this with kind of turmoil in the country?
Well, the one thing I feel like people put way too much pressure on celebrities to change the world. Yeah. We can do so much. That's not our responsibility to fix the world and do whatever people want them to do. Now, if you want to speak up and run out and hold a sign up in the street, do that. But everybody doesn't have that calling. And I hate when you're getting destroyed because you're not standing on the top of a building holding a megaphone. That's just not everybody's calling, and they can be completely supportive of what you want to do, but it's just, I don't feel like it's their duty to be the savior. I don't think so. Yeah.
And for you personally, how have you been handling it? I guess just as a regular citizen, and then also as a celebrity, how have you been able to kind of handle this moment?
And as a mom of two Black sons.
And a wife of a Black husband.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I tell people. When I saw that video of George Floyd with his knee, the guy's knee on his neck, that terrified me completely. I have 3 Black men in my household, and I'm hoping that it will never come to that where they're being arrested for something that doesn't even have anything to do with them and end up losing their lives. I don't want that to happen. And I'm definitely in support of Black Lives Matter. I believe that we need to speak up, but I also believe we have to be strategic about this. I understand the anger and I understand the loud cheer and cry for help. But until you stop being angry and start thinking about the strategy that we're going to put in to change things, nothing is going to change. Just marching is not going to change it because we've marched for decades and that hasn't happened yet. But I think when Black people decide to get strategic with it, so we need to come together and figure out how we make this change. I think the first place we need to start is that damn Constitution. It was not written for us. Once you change it and incorporate everything and everyone that has grown with this country, it will be more inclusive, and I think it will be able to relate to everyone better. I hate when people have these sides of Democrat, Republican. I call myself a conservative liberal because I have conservative ideals and I have liberal ideals. So why can't we combine the two so everybody's happy? You got these two sides determined to make it their way. It's not about them. It's about the people. And until they get that point, we're going to constantly be hitting each other.
You know what? You sound like you need to run for office.
Nope. I hate politics because I just feel like it's a bunch of selfish babies running this world. You got Republicans screaming, Democrats always bring up racism as soon as an election comes. And then you got the Democrats screaming, Republicans are always bringing up law and order. And it's true. If you look through history, from the beginning of time, we've been on a hamster wheel. It's always been the same. When do we stop? When do we stop and say, this is what we need to do now? Let's bring the good ideas from Republicans and the good ideas from the Democrats and figure out how we can put them together.
Yeah. I think that's, you touched on it earlier. I feel like as a country, oftentimes you were talking about the celebrities. we're always looking to the wrong people to find the answers that we actually need and are looking for. And the reality is right now, our politicians may not, as they stand now, may not be the people that we as citizens can look to. We need to figure out, like you said, a strategy to make them more accountable and to create change, because what's happening now isn't working.
It's not working. It doesn't take a blind person to see that it's not working. Yeah. And there's so many laws that were put into place. You have people screaming how Hillary and Biden put these laws into place that convicted a lot of black men. Okay, let's change that. You're sitting there telling people they did this, then change it. Stop complaining about it and change it. You have the power to change that law. But no, you're not doing that. You're not changing the things that create systematic racism. You're not changing the things that you say were put into place by Clinton or Reagan. You still have those things there and you're complaining. So is that our fault that you're not doing your job?
Yeah, that's first of all, this is an exceptional point. And I think that I think it highlights something that we don't see a lot, particularly on social media, which is that everyone doesn't think either this or that. There's a lot of gray area, and and like you said, on certain issues you might think this way, and other issues you might think this way. Yeah, it seems as the opportunity for kind of reasonable debate has left. It's either like you think this or you think that, and if you don't, people are kind of at each other's throats. And I think that's a hindrance to progress. But the reality is, and V and I have talked about this several times, is that the people at the top, they love that. The division is beautiful because it keeps them at the top and not worried about them and fighting about the issues down here at the lower level. I guess one other question on this too is I guess I'm going to ask you about Eddie's thoughts too, because as a black man, I'm sure you've talked to him about this, and as a celebrity, how has he kind of been dealing with this this time period as well?
And he feels pretty much the same way I do. He has his reservations about Biden. And I don't think too many people like Trump. So he has his reservations about Trump as well. Of course, our biggest concern are our boys. Yeah. What are these laws going to do for our kids, and how are they going to help our kids? I think people are putting money in the wrong places. Now, I think defunding the police might be a good idea, but what is that going to do for them? They're sitting there angry now with their arms crossed and not going to Yeah. So how do we go from one? There are bad apples in every area. There are. So what you have to do is reform the police. I think they need to reform the prison system. They definitely need to reform the educational system. But nobody wants to do that. They want to put money in oil and war and all this stupidness. How is that helping us? Your house is only as strong as your weakest link. The foundation is only as strong as your weakest link. And if the people are weak, you're going to suffer.
Yeah. And how have your kids dealt with this too? Because that's the other thing I've been trying to, figure out. And V and I have talked about this too. We have nephews and nieces who are younger, who are kind of just learning about race and how it potentially could affect them in life. Mm-hmm. How have you decided to approach this, particularly with your younger son? How have you decided to kind of approach these conversations?
Right. My oldest son, he's 23. He's completely independent and he has his own thoughts, and he, of course, understands what's going on. Now, my youngest son, all he sees is all of the fighting, all of the looting, and of course, the media, who is the biggest devil, who will make it seem like these people that are crying out for help are just demons who want to hurt people. And then you see the commercials for this is a red state. Tennessee is a red state. There's a senator, a doctor running for Tennessee Senate. And his commercial is, are you tired of the looting? Are you tired of the animals and the vandals destroying your country? We are too. That's not how you campaign. You don't make people angry and build up already the anxieties that's in them. This is the worst way, but they've done this continuously since the beginning of time, and we just will not, as a people, get off that hamster wheel. So for my son, I'm just trying to explain to him what's going on in the best, I guess, cleanest way I can, so that he can understand each side. I don't want him to just be on one person's side, because one thing I learned growing up, my stepfather was abusive. So I hated him. I still kind of hate him. But as a mature adult, I asked myself, what got him to that point? Something happened to him to make him fall off the wagon and be the person that he became. So we have to go back and fix what was broken before you can move forward. I tell my son that when he struggles with math, there's something in the beginning. So let's start from the beginning and see where it was that you got lost so we can understand where to take you. Nobody's thinking sensibly. That's where I tell people, stop being angry, start strategizing, play chess. Don't be the one that they're not going to listen to. When babies scream and holler, you're finding a bottle immediately to shut them up.
Right. That's a great point.
Real talk right here.
Yeah, this is real talk because, and again, V and I talk about this a lot in terms of just dealing with issues. A lot of times people are trying to figure out Band-Aid ways to kind of cover them. Oh, let's just throw them some money, or let's remove this name or remove this. And it's like, that's cool. But if you don't start with the structure and start with, like you said, at the beginning, then you're not even going to see what built that house, So you have to see what are the bricks that actually, each brick, let's figure out what each brick is in that house that was built and figure out what the problem was with that brick.
And one other question we've asked some of our guests, no one's immune from profiling, right? Have your kids and Eddie experienced that? Despite being Eddie George, they've still experienced the same issues of being profiled as Black men. Have you guys had to deal with those experiences as a family, situations where your kids have been profiled or Eddie's dealt with something that's racist, or you dealing with it as well?
Thankfully, no. As a kid, yeah, because of course I grew up in the 70s and 80s. So yeah, we dealt with stuff like that. But one thing Eddie said to me that I completely had to agree with, he says that he has to re-educate himself on certain aspects of racism, because as Eddie George, the football player, he was treated completely different. He was held up on a pedestal. He was the extraordinary guy. So he didn't have to, people knew his face wherever he went. So if they were shutting a door, it's like, oh, I don't mean to shut this door on you, just these other dummies. So he said that he has to actually go back out and really identify again with the whole racism comments, the racism profiling, because he was so out of touch for so long, because his career started in college. He started being popular in college. And as time went on, we didn't have to deal with that as much. But there are so many people that do, because they don't have a familiar face. Yeah.
And you're right too, because it's not just that he was a famous football player, but he also has a face that people recognize. I remember stories about like Donovan McNabb being able to walk in Philly and people not knowing who he was, even though he was very celebrated. And Sean Alexander, same thing happened to him in Seattle. People used to think he was Tiki Barber in Seattle when he played for the Seahawks. So, but Eddie was one of the ones that, from college, like you said, because of his profile and obviously winning the Heisman and just his celebrity, that people actually recognize his face. So no, Taj, this part of the conversation has been exceptional. I think, people, I know you don't want to run for politics, and I don't either, trust me. But I do think
folks are dirty.
But I do think, though, that
there's no real reward, right?
But I think that your voices and the things that you said here, I think a lot of people need to hear them, particularly from you. My challenge to you is to figure out a way to do that in a way that you feel comfortable with. Not because you're Taj George as much as because I think what you said is very powerful, and I think a lot of people can really, really benefit from that. So I just want to throw that out there.
Well, you know what I do like doing? I like speaking on the issues in an environment like this. When you post things on social media, I refuse to sit there and argue back and forth with somebody I don't know because you don't agree with what I say.
Right. I agree. And social media has become extremely toxic.
I benefit from not having to engage in social media that much, and I actually enjoy the piece.
Right. I mean, you get attacked for nothing, like especially in this little time when everybody's so sensitive. I remember D.L. Hughley made a post, and my post was sarcastic. I was like, they're blaming everything on Democrats, and he did this, like Democrats are controlling his Twitter. And I said, and for those people who don't understand what I'm saying, fuck Trump. That's what I said. You would not believe how many, you stupid, you so crazy. I'm like, did you read the post? That's the problem I have with social media. I can't even begin. I got a high blood pressure.
It's better. It's better. Sometimes it's better. If we didn't have, V and I talk about this too, if we didn't have things to promote, sometimes we probably wouldn't be on there.
Exactly.
So let's talk about some music too real quick, and then we're going to do something fun and get you out of here. So we talked a little bit about the industries and how the industry has changed over time, but there are a lot of still new artists who are very talented, right? Who I think would have dominated or at least been able to compete in any era. Talk to us a little bit about some of the younger artists or newer artists that you are fans of or that you developed, relationships with that you think are great.
One of my favorite new artists is Tiana Taylor. She's a New Yorker, so I love me some Tiana.
Right.
And I love her voice. I loved her last album. I thought it was so incredible, and it didn't get the accolades that it deserved. But she's a phenomenal talent. I love Summer Walker, and I might be biased because she just put out a song called SWV.
That'll get you. Yeah.
But it's a really nice song. It's not even about us.
Remix.
No, it's not her. I know, right? We should with her, but no, it's not even about us. But the song is dope. So I like her. I am impressed with Dub Baby. There's so many babies.
Yeah.
DA Baby.
Yeah.
I really like him. And I like Bop, that song. And one of the things I loved about that song, or him, what made me appreciate him, was when he was on Saturday Night Live. You have so many artists who just walk back and forth on the stage and you can barely understand what they're saying. Their pants are hanging off their butt. And that's fine. Do you. But I love the fact that he took the time to prepare a performance.
Put together a show,
Yes, he had the outfit right, the clothes, the dancers, and then he brought out the Jabberwockies.
Right.
I want to dance with the Jabberwocky.
He's really smart. He's really smart.
I was really impressed with him with that. And then I really like the other guy, Roddy Ricch. I love his flow. When he was on the BET Awards and I saw him playing that piano, and he sounded great live. These young kids, actually, some of them have talent. Some of them really do. So I listened to him. Who's the other one that I like? I'm just a fan of all the usuals. Drake and Lil Wayne, Chris Brown. Of course, I love me some Chris Brown. What else I've been listening to, like Night and Day, that I'm a huge fan of right now? The Hamilton soundtrack.
Yeah.
That soundtrack is so incredible.
It's dope.
Lin-Manuel is outrageous. He wrote everything. I'm just like, dude.
There's a ton of talent. Go ahead, V.
I wanted to ask you one other question, since you've been touring most of your life, right? Are there particular cities or countries that you love going to, that you need to make sure whenever you guys go on tour, you spend time there?
Yeah.
I love Australia. If I had to leave this country, I would probably go to Australia or Canada, mostly because they speak English.
Right, that helps.
Yeah. And it's just really nice. I love the atmosphere. It's really clean and beautiful. The scenery is gorgeous. And I'm an animal lover. So they have koalas and all the fun stuff that I like to play with. So I love Australia. Nice. I just love being on tour.
We saw you in New York. You guys shut it down a couple years ago. I love that. It was at BB King's, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
That was really good. Okay, so we have a couple top 5 lists that we're going to ask you, and then we're going to get you out of here. The first one actually is your top 5 favorite SWV songs of all time.
Do they have to be in order?
No, they don't have to be in order. No.
Okay. I love The Best Years. That was off our last album, Still. The Best Years. I loved what's the dang song off the second album? Jesus, I gotta learn my song.
Artists can't even remember that music. People don't realize.
Yeah, they got too many songs though. You guys got
The Best Years, Anything remix. I love. Of course, you gotta love Weak, but Use Me and On Tonight.
Okay, I like it. It's funny because a lot of times our as fans' favorite lists a lot of times aren't the same as the artists.
Are there any particular? Do you have a favorite producer that you or favorite producers that you guys have worked with?
I liked working with Brian Michael Cox a lot. He had that young guy, Kevin. Again, my memory don't work all the time. But I really enjoyed working with him. I did. We did a song called "Time to Go" with him that I really, really liked. And I love working with Brian.
You guys are famous for having the first Neptunes placement on a record, right?
Yeah, use your heart.
Yeah, that's what's up. V does his research. Okay, and okay, 2 more top 5 lists. I'll ask one, then V will ask one. Let's talk about your top 5 musicians of all time. Favorite musicians of all time.
Bobby Brown.
Yeah, we know Bobby Brown.
Well, that's an artist. You mean somebody who plays?
No, I mean an artist. Top 5 artists, musicians, anyone.
Okay, so you're right, Bobby Brown.
Okay.
If they had to be in order, he would be number 1. Okay. Bobby Brown, Babyface. Mm-hmm. I love Tasha Cobb Leonard, and that's totally different genre. I love her. I love Chris Brown, and let me see, who else do I really like a lot? And Joe. Remember Joe?
Yeah, Joe was really good.
Oh, I love Joe.
Now, I gotta ask you one question now. Who were I guess one or two people that really influenced you and your style and your desire to be in the music industry? Yeah.
New Edition. That's why we became a group. We wanted to be a group so we can meet New Edition.
Wow. It worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
That was the drive.
That is amazing. All right, we have one more for you and then we'll get you out of here.
Well, you said early on you weren't into sports, but I'm sure you are now. So your top 5 athletes. I have a feeling we know who number 1 is.
Well, I can give you 4 because one of them is my boo. Yeah, he'll always be my favorite. I like, of course, Michael Jordan. You know who I like a lot, and he just doesn't get a lot of credit? I love the Dennis Rodman. I love Dennis Rodman.
Yes.
After watching him on Last Dance, I thought he was, of course, you always knew he was dope. But then right after the first episode came on, his E60 came on. And his background story is so your heart goes out to him. I'm sitting there watching it, crying, and I'm like, I'll be your friend. He's just such a dope dude, and he was so humble and appreciative in the beginning. I just really loved him, and I'm sure he's probably still the same way. Of course, like I said, people don't realize when you see somebody and they're away, don't always assume that they're just horrible. Something got them there. Something happened to get them there. So you just can't be like, But anyway, so Eddie George, Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman. I love Shaquille O'Neal. I love him. And I love me some Deshaun Watson. And Christian McCaffrey. I love Christian McCaffrey.
You got a couple young guys in there.
Curtis Samuel.
Oh, there you go. Nice. I was going to ask you, how does the Deshaun Watson love, how does that play out in Tennessee? Because you're in Titans land, and that's one of their rivals.
They don't know.
That is too funny. Oh gosh, Taj, thank you.
They know now, though.
Yeah, they know now. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been an amazing interview. You're always an amazing interview. We love your energy. We love your life. We love your music. We love your family. You guys are great.
Yes.
Stay safe during this time period, and please stay in touch with us. Thanks for joining us in the Pot of Words
Podcast. New music.
Thank you.
Take care.
Boys, we get on up.